Welcome back to the program. Well, my fear the other day that I said on Jeff's show was that there's something else sinister at play here going on behind the scenes. And the reason that they're not trying to open up the government. Well, we now find out from Senator Mark Wayne Mullins that that is indeed what has happened here. Now, granted, it doesn't look like they want to keep the government closed forever because they're getting pressure, not us. They're getting pressure from the unions. They're getting pressure from other people. They're getting pressure from air traffic controllers and things like that. We're not getting the pressure. They are. But listen to this. This is very revealing about Chuck Schumer. Chuck Toomer, I like to call him.
Senate Democrat that said, quote, "We feel like now after the No Kings rally, our neck is simply in a guillotine, and now they got to wait until after the election." Last week, Liz, I know Dick Durbin wanted to break with the Democrats and reopen the government. Chuck Schumer, in a private meeting with other Democrat senators, said that if you'll just wait till after the election, I'll release the handcuffs. I added the handcuff part, but basically I'm paraphrasing what he said. The reason why is because they're afraid their base wouldn't show up today in Virginia, New Jersey, and in New York. So it's been about politics. It's never been about policy. It's been about holding the American people as leverage points, regardless of the damage they cause to the livelihood of these individuals. But elections are more important than the Dems because why? They know their polls is at the very bottom than it's ever been for the Democrat Party.
So let me just rephrase that. Or recap it. So he held backroom meetings with all the Democrats secretly, and he ordered them not to vote to open up the government until after these elections because they wanted to make sure that their radical extreme base was going to show up in these bright blue states. Remember, these are not purple states. These are certainly not red states. These are bright blue. Like my suit jacket, they're bright blue, okay? So if any of these Republicans would have won, it almost would have been a miracle, okay? So let's just kind of put that into perspective. But you heard it from his mouth. They met secretly and said, do not vote to open up the government until after these elections. Why? Because they're scumbags. Because they don't care about the American people. They don't care about anything other than what? Power. And that's why they need to be defeated. And they will be defeated in 2026 and 2028. But I wanted to kind of point that out because this is what's been going on now behind the scenes. The government could open up possibly by this Friday or maybe next week. And here's why. They're now working on what they're calling a three-legged deal. And I don't like all the details of this deal, I'll be quite honest. But I'm just going to read it to you, and we'll go from there. A new report says that some components of a new deal to end the federal government shutdown have now emerged. But it's unclear when or if all of these pieces will actually fall into place. A report said that they're calling it the three-legged plan has three separate pieces. A Senate vote on Affordable Care Act tax credits. Now, here's the question, and they're not specifying yet. Is this just to make sure that premiums for the Affordable Care Act don't go up? Okay, fine. I guess you can agree with that, right? But if this is about funding illegal immigrants' health care, then this is a hard no. A hard no. And I hope that they're not planning on doing that. Then it says a continuing resolution would then give negotiators time to work out a budget for the rest of the federal fiscal year, which began on October 1st, and a vote on a bill to fund the military, the legislative branch, and the farmers. So spending for all of that. I think we're, quote, getting close to an off-ramp here, said Senate Majority Leader John Thune. And then the minority whip, Dick Durbin, Illinois Democrat, said that leaders, quote, seem more optimistic that there'll be a breakthrough soon, end quote. The length of the continuing resolution to fund the government is definitely a point of contention here. Before, Senate Democrats sent the government into a shutdown, a House-passed bill proposed funding the government through November 21st. Now, granted, that wasn't even that long. If they were to sign on to that now, I mean, we're talking, what is today, the 4th? I mean, that's not much time at all. Was it 17 days, whatever it is? So that's not even worth voting on, as far as I'm concerned, and they understand that too. If the Senate cuts a deal to reopen the government, the House needs to come back and pass the bill extending that date in the process. So here's how this works. Republican Susan Collins of Maine has said that she wants a mid-December date. Well, that's stupid, and we'll explain here in a second why. The reason, well, I'll explain it, is because if it's in mid-December, here's what happens, okay? Let's say they work out a compromise and they go to December 21st or whatever, and if you don't get it signed by then, well, now all of a sudden it's Christmas time and you need to leave town because you want to get back to your family and your friends. So what are you going to do? You're going to shove it through and you're going to sign anything that gets in front of you. That is the worst thing to do, okay? And of course, Susan Collins, the idiot in Maine, would suggest that. Republican Senator Ron Johnson, on the other hand, of Wisconsin, said that he wants to support a January date. And why? Because it's after the holidays, so that the Democrats can't pull some stunt right before Christmas and try to force the hand of Republicans and then say, oh, we're shutting down the government right before Christmas so that they can ruin Black Friday, they can ruin, all the sales for Christmas, then they can run with a stupid narrative in January that the economy and Trumponomics and all this isn't working. This is how these idiots think, and I know their playbook better than they do, all right? It's my job to know it. Then it says the healthcare tax credits issue, which was central for the shutdown, would be resolved with a Senate vote on extending the credits as Democrats want. Now, again, if that's including illegal aliens, no way. Keep it closed. Don't even think about reopening the government. The Axio report then said that it was unclear whether Democrats would need enough GOP support to clear the 60-vote threshold or just a simple majority. Thune said on Monday that he was, quote, optimistic the Senate could vote this week on reopening the government. Quote, if we don't start seeing some progress or evidence of that by at least the middle of this week, it would be hard-pressed to see how we could finish anything by the end of this week, he said, according to Newsweek. There are people who realize that this has gone on long enough and there's been enough pain inflicted on the American people, and it's time to end it, Thune said to CBS News. House Speaker Mike Johnson said that he prefers a bill that comes to the House to reopen the government as long as it funds through January. Again, isn't it sad that we're funding the government in little bits and pieces, a month here, a month there, a couple months here, a couple months there? We're so disoriented and just so completely unhinged in Washington and discombobulated and dysfunctional, I guess is the best word. We can't even keep the government open for a year or 2 years or 3 years or whatever. It's got to be a couple of months here and a couple of months there. That shows you the dysfunctionality in Washington. Quote, House Speaker, I am not a fan of extending it to December because let's be frank, a lot of people around here have PTSD about Christmas omnibus spending bills. We don't want to be in that situation again. All of a sudden, we don't have a deal, it gets too close, and we want to leave town, and we can't leave town because we don't have a deal done. And so they put anything in front of these people, and they sign bad legislation. That's paraphrasing, but that's exactly what Mike Johnson's saying, which is exactly what I said earlier. I think putting it into January makes a lot more sense, he said, because we've got to obviously build consensus around that. There's some discussion about this. We'll see where it lands. I'm really not sure, he said. House Appropriations Committee Chairman Tom Cole, Oklahoma Republican, said he also prefers a January end date, according to Fox News. So the sticking point now is how long are they going to keep the government open? If they do it to December, this is going to end up being bad, because then you're going to come to mid-December, the end of December, right around Christmas. Everyone wants to leave town, and the government's closed, and that would hurt the overall spending and the Christmas season and everything else. And then you might get something so bad and so horrific and so terrible that they're just going to be like, here, sign it. I got to get out of here. I got plans. I got to go to my, my district, my state, whatever. That's the last thing we want. We want to make sure that they go mid-January to the end of January, not in the very beginning of January. So we'll see what happens. But let me just say this, because this is really important. I think Republicans need to tell these Democrat idiots really, really, really clear, okay, that there will be no deals at all without some type of fix to this absolutely horrific SNAP program, okay? This program is absolute, complete, and total fraud. What I'm going to do, because I want to keep this segment short, is I'm just going to go through some interesting numbers, okay? After Trump left office and Otto Penn came in and stole the election, the first thing they did was open the floodgates for immigration, right? Millions and millions of people coming in. But that's not the full story. All those people coming in, guess what? They got to eat. They got to live. They got to have food. They got to have baby powder. They got to have baby bottles. They got to have formula. They got to have whatever, right? So where do you think, what happened? What do you think happened, huh? Guess what? All those illegals, right to our SNAP. You, me, we're paying for it. That's right. We're paying for illegals to invade our fucking country and live off of our labor. Okay? If that's not socialism, to each according to one's needs, from each according to one's ability, right? Then I don't know what is. Listen to this. I'm not going to go through every one, but I am going to show you, especially in these blue states, how much from fiscal year 2021 on, how it changed. Okay? Listen to this. Arizona, okay, 198 million to 288 million. That is a 45% increase. Okay? Crazy, crazy stuff. Let's see. California, is that billions? It is billions, sorry. 7.8 billion to 11.2 billion. That is a 43% increase. Connecticut, 712 million to 980 million, 37%. District of Columbia, 225 million to 381 million. That's a 69% increase. Let's see. Illinois, if I can see the number, 3.3 billion up to 5.1 billion. That is a 50.4% increase. Let's see. Let's go to Maryland. 1.2 billion. Yep, billion to 2.1 billion. 68% increase. Massachusetts, 1.4 to 2.3. Michigan, 2.3 to 3.2. That's a 40% increase. Minnesota, holy shitballs. Minnesota grew 173%, by far the most of any state. We are talking 724 million to 1.9 million. I'm sorry, 1,985 million. That's 173%. 173% increase. And it goes on from there. New Jersey, 1.2 to 2.1. New Mexico, 850 million to 1.3. New York, 5.1 to 7.3. Even North Carolina, 2.3 to 3.9. Oregon, 1.2 to 1.8. Rhode Island, 280 million to 378 million. Let's see. Virginia 1.3 to 1.9. The average, by the way, was 47.12%. Let me explain what this means. The average from when the auto pen took over till before Trump was a 47.12% increase in SNAP benefits in less than 4 years. Okay? So, your total numbers are, let's see, you went from 73,894,659,000 to 108,710,189,000. Okay? That is 34 million. And gee, how many people came into the country in the last 4 years? I don't know. Maybe 34 million or more? I'm telling you, any shutdown that opens up, we have got to have SNAP reform. 100% have to have it. Have to have it. Otherwise, we're opening the government to continue to feed these illegal predators, because that's what they are. This needs to change. I hope Brooke Collins, who seems to be serious about it, is going to take this serious, because this shutdown has opened up Pandora's box to the filthy crime of SNAP benefits. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.